Chapter 20. Howard's End. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This reading by Lucy Burgoyne. Howard's End by Edward Morgan Forster. Chapter 20. Margaret had often wondered at the disturbance that takes place in the world's waters, when love, who seems so tiny a pebble, slips in. Whom does love concern beyond the beloved and the lover? Yet his impact deluges 100 shores. No doubt the disturbance is really the spirit of the generations, welcoming the new generation, and chafing against the ultimate fate, who holds all the seas in the palm of her hand. But love cannot understand this. He cannot comprehend another's infinity. He is conscious only of his own flying sunbeam, falling rose, pebble that asks for one quiet plunge below the fretting interplay of space and time. He knows that he will survive at the end of things, and be gathered by fate as a jewel from the slime, and be handed with admiration round the assembly of the gods. Men did produce this, they will say, and saying they will give men immortality. But meanwhile, what agitations meanwhile? The foundations of property and propriety are laid bare. Twin rocks, family pride flounders to the surface, puffing and blowing, and refusing to be comforted. Theology, vaguely ascetic, gets up a nasty ground swell. Then the lawyers are aroused, cold brewed, and creep out of their holes. They do what they can. They tidy up property and propriety, reassure theology and family pride. Half-guineas are poured on the troubled waters. The lawyers creep back, and, if all has gone well, love joins one man and woman together in matrimony. Margaret had expected the disturbance, and was not irritated by it. For a sensitive woman she had steady nerves, and could bear with the incongruous and the grotesque, and besides, there was nothing excessive about her love affair. Good humour was the dominant note of her relations with Mr. Wilcox, or, as I must now call him, Henry. Henry did not encourage romance, and she was no girl to fidget for it. An acquaintance had become a lover, might become a husband, but would retain all that she had noted in the acquaintance, and love must confirm an old relation rather than reveal a new one. In this spirit she promised to marry him. He was in Swanage on the morrow, bearing the engagement ring. They greeted one another with a hearty cordiality that impressed Aunt Juley. Henry dined at the Bays, but he had engaged a bedroom in the principal hotel. He was one of those men who knew the principal hotel by instinct. After dinner he asked Margaret if she wouldn't care for a turn on the parade. She accepted, and could not repress a little tremor. It would be her first real love scene. But as she put on her hat, and she burst out laughing. Love was so unlike the articles served up in books. The joy, though genuine, was different. The mystery, an unexpected mystery. For one thing, Mr. Wilcox still seemed a stranger. For a time they talked about the ring. Then she said, "Do you remember the Embankment at Chelsea? It can't be 10 days ago." "Yes," he said, laughing. "And you and your sister were head and ears deep in some quixotic scheme." "Ah, well." "A little thought then, certainly. Did you?" "I don't know about that. I shouldn't like to say." "Why was it earlier?" she cried. "Did you think of me this way earlier? How extraordinarily interesting, Henry. Tell me." But Henry had no intention of telling. Perhaps he could not have told, for his mental states became obscure as soon as he had passed through them. He misliked the very word "interesting," connoting it with wasted energy and even with morbidity. Hard facts were enough for him. "I didn't think of it," she pursued. "No, when you spoke to me in the drawing room, that was practically the first. It was all so different from what it's supposed to be. On the stage or in books, a proposal is, how shall I put it, a full blown affair, a kind of bouquet. It loses its literal meaning. But in life a proposal really is a proposal. By the way, a suggestion, a seed," she concluded, and the thought flew away into the darkness. "I was thinking, if you didn't mind, that we ought to spend this evening in a business talk. There will be so much to settle." "I think so too. Tell me, in the first place, how did you get on with Tibby?" "With your brother?" "Yes, during cigarettes." "Oh, very well." "I am so glad," she answered, a little surprised. "What did you talk about? Me, presumably?" "About Greece, too." "Greece was a very good card, Henry. Tibby's only a boy still, and one has to pick and choose subjects a little. Well done." "I was telling him I have shares in a currant farm near Calamata." "What a delightful thing to have shares in. Can't we go there for our honeymoon?" "What to do?" "To eat the currants. And isn't there marvellous scenery?" "Moderately, but it's not the kind of place one could possibly go to with a lady." "Why not?" "No hotels." "Some ladies do without hotels. Are you aware that Helen and I have walked alone over the Apennines, with our luggage on our backs?" "I wasn't aware. And, if I can manage it, you will never do such a thing again." She said more gravely, "You haven't found time for a talk with Helen yet, I suppose?" "No." "Do before you go. I am so anxious you two should be friends." "Your sister and I have always hit it off," he said negligently. "But we're drifting away from our business. Let me begin at the beginning. You know that Evie is going to marry Percy Cahill?" "Dolly's uncle?" "Exactly. The girl's madly in love with him. A very good sort of fellow. But he demands, and rightly, a suitable provision with her. And in the second place, you will naturally understand, there is Charles. Before leaving town, I wrote Charles a very careful letter. You see, he has an increasing family and increasing expenses, and the I. and W.A. is nothing particular just now, though capable of development." "Poor fellow!" murmured Margaret, looking out to sea, and not understanding. "Charles being the elder son, some day Charles will have Howard's end. But I am anxious, in my own happiness, not to be unjust to others." "Of course not," she began, and then gave a little cry. "You mean money? How stupid I am! Of course not." Oddly enough, he winced a little at the word. "Yes, money, since you put it so frankly. I am determined to be just to all, just to you, just to them. I am determined that my children shall have no case against me." "Be generous to them," she said sharply. "Bother justice." "I am determined, and have already written to Charles to that effect." "But how much have